Hello, welcome to Let's Get Down to Business with the Prince Rupert and District Chamber of Commerce. We are here to give a voice to our local business owners, entrepreneurs, and community leaders to strengthen and support our local business community and to share the wisdom and experience of longtime business leaders and the fresh ideas and experiences of new entrepreneurs. So let's get down to business.
Hi, my name is Daphne Thompson, and I am the president of the Prince Rupert and District Chamber of Commerce. And today on Let's Get Down to Business, I have the utmost pleasure of speaking to Kristen Barre from Let's Lift with Kristen. Kristen, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How did you get to Prince Rupert?
I moved here in 2006. I was living in Terrace before that and just decided this was the right move at the time.
Well, Prince Rupert does have a very welcoming feel to it, especially the nice climate that we have and the beautiful scenery around here. So very good move. And
yeah. I agree. Yes.
All right. So tell us about you and your business. What is Lift with Kristen?
Okay, so I started training just before I moved here. I've always been very active. I got into the gym actually because of my mother, who was also and is also still very active. She's been an incredible role model. I got into being a trainer specifically because I met a trainer in Terrace just before I moved and started working with him. And his clients, when he moved, asked specifically to work with me. But I wasn't set up for that yet. So he helped me get into the school that I went through. And when I moved here, I just started pounding the pavement and going to physiotherapists and going to doctors and introducing myself and putting my name out there in the community. And it was the great thing about Rupert is it was very easy to get established. I've actually never had to advertise my business once, which is amazing. Just the word of mouth here is really, really great. Yeah,
that is awesome.
Mm-hmm. So I started initially, I was working for Cornerstones Wellness Centre as their physio assistant, which was a really good start. I feel like it gave me quite a leg up because a lot of personal trainers don't have the that hands-on experience with working with injuries or sensitivities like that. So I'm incredibly grateful for that experience. And the physio that I worked with was extremely generous with her knowledge. It honestly couldn't have been a better start to my career. And then after she kind of semi-retired and I went off on my own entirely, and I've just been extremely busy ever since.
Of course. So what is it that you specifically focus on in your personal training?
Well, it's evolved over the years. So initially it just started with, general fitness, and a lot of clients would come to me for fat loss or muscle building. But I had a child in 2010 and had some complications with my own pregnancy. And I found that the support postpartum was very, very small. And so I became a prenatal and postpartum specialist. And so a lot of my clients are sent to me from their doctors or from their physiotherapists with either needing support through their pregnancy for specific issues or for rehabilitative help afterwards, like for abdominal separation or pelvic instability and things like that. So that has been a pretty big focus after having a child, is working with women like that. I still take athletes and I still take the general fitness clients or people needing fat loss. And again, because of my history with rehab, and I'm also certified as a fitness therapist, which just basically means that I can work alongside physiotherapists. I also get a lot of post-rehab clients who still need a little bit of extra guidance outside of physio. But I would say that my main goal, every client's goal is different, but my main goal as a trainer is to educate my clients so in depth that they are no longer falling victim to multi-level marketing diet fads, so that they're no longer on and off the wagon. Knowledge really is powerful. And the more that you know about your own biochemistry, the more you know about how your hormones are working in your body and the importance of musculoskeletal tissue, the more successful you're going to be long term. And I mean, like, independent from me as well. I don't want my clients to be with me forever. I want them to be educated and strong and ready to take things on independently. That's really the goal.
So what are some of the things that your clients are challenged with the most?
Well, a lot of it is body image issues, and a lot of it is, I mean, we can all exercise, we can all move our bodies a little bit more, right? And that theoretically is easy to do. But I'm also a certified nutritionist. I should say that as well. A lot of what my clients come to me with is, like, the diet industry is just a myriad of bull. It's
I hear you.
A multi-billion-dollar industry that is built on capitalizing on insecurities and keeping people confused, right? Because if you're educated, you know you're not going to go and take a cleanse that is for weight loss, but it's really just emptying your digestive tract, right? Like, I think a lot of people come to me with confusion over, doing keto, doing paleo, starvation diets, don't eat after 4, don't eat until 12, you can't have fruit, all this like ridiculous stuff that is just, it's keeping people confused. And I think that it's better long term if we can simplify these ideas, right? And it doesn't need to be confusing. If somebody were to focus on having whole foods, lots of fruit and vegetables, and have the adequate amount of protein, which is different for everybody. It's something I go over with all of my clients, what their macronutrient ratios should be, then they will have success without the feeling of lack and without the confusion and without the falling off and going back on because they've been too restrictive. That's one of the big challenges, is confusion around diet. Another one I would say would be body image issues. I have clients who, when they're doing their form and I say, look in the mirror so that you can see what you're doing, they refuse to look in the mirror because they are so vulnerable and they feel so bad about where they are, even if where they are isn't so bad. And I think that is a big part of how we talk about our bodies with each other, especially as women. It's something that I've always been really aware of. I've heard my mom talk about her body in front of me when I was younger, and that I didn't realize that, she's obviously, my mom is an incredible athlete and she's never been like less than in my eyes at all. But I didn't realize that she had a flaw until she told me she had a flaw. And so I think even if we're sitting around as a group of women and I start talking about the things about my body that I really don't like, someone who never thought about that stuff about their own body is going to start seeing those things as flaws in themselves. So I think if we can change the conversation to more strength-based, law-based, if you talk about your body in front of your parent, how you talk, or in front of your child, and how you talk about your child's body as they're growing, these are huge things that are going to shape not just our children and their relationship with their bodies, but your friends and your peers. How you talk about your body is really, really important. And it's sad. It's sad to see my clients sometimes come in with such low opinion of this beautiful, beautiful machine that they were given, right? And and that's the great thing about our bodies. Like, we have one, it's capable of so much. And as a trainer, as a nutritionist, and it's really important for me to, and for my clients actually, for me to be able to meet people where they're at. Everybody starts somewhere. That's really important to keep in mind if you're new.
Chucks, you've touched on so many really, really relevant things. The first is the up and down roller coaster of what dieting is and the restrictions and all of that. And what usually happens is you get on this very restrictive diet and somehow be able to keep this through until a certain point, and then you don't know what normal is anymore. So what does maintenance look like afterwards?
Well, maintenance is different for everybody, but what happens on a biochemical scale when you are really restrictive, what happens is your body has a basal metabolic rate. That's how many calories your body burns if it were sedentary for 24 hours. That's what it needs just for your autonomic functions, breathing, digestion, cellular turnover, all of those things. So if you eat below that, yes, you will lose weight. Generally, you won't be losing fat, you'll be losing lean muscle tissue. Lean muscle tissue is the basis for your metabolism. So the more of it you have, the more calories you're going to burn while at rest. So the clear issue here is that if you're eating too little and you're burning your lean muscle tissue, your metabolism is not only going to slow down because you have less lean muscle tissue, but it's also going to downregulate hormonally, because we're set to survive. So if your body's not getting enough calories and you're sort of in this this state of like not eating enough over a long period of time, the body's going to burn less and less and less, and that metabolic set point is going to slow, and then you're going to find that you plateau, and to lose more weight you'll have to eat even less, and then the cycle continues, and that's how anorexia begins, right? Because you continually have to eat less.
But then that's one thing that I love that you touched on, because in my personal life, that's even been a really big struggle. I used to compete in fitness, and what you're talking about now of literally just dropping the calories continuously. I was probably for a year on only between 600 and 800 calories.
Wow.
That completely messed up everything in my system. And I love that you focus on the well-being of the woman even afterwards, because there is so many coaches out there that just after the results.
Yes.
And they just do whatever it takes to get the results needed, and then they kind of leave. So that's why the maintenance part afterwards, to first reach your goal in such a healthy way, so that maintenance afterwards becomes a lifestyle and not almost like a reverse diet.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. And reverse diet it's interesting that you have a background in competition. Reverse dieting is something that a lot of people haven't actually heard of. So let's talk about that for a second. So when you're reverse dieting, it's where you've been at a very low caloric intake for a long time. And if you jump from very, very low to very, very high, you're going to start putting on body fat. But if you can slowly and incrementally increase what you're taking in, as well as continually putting on lean muscle tissue, we can re-regulate your body's metabolic set rate. And as well, at the same time, we're going to allow those hormones to start doing what they were initially supposed to be doing. So when we talk about metabolic damage, that's another term that goes out there. There isn't really such a thing as metabolic damage. Your metabolism isn't damaged. It's just a process in the body that has now been downregulated because of the hormone and chemical response that has changed because of a severe lack of calories, or the yo-yo dieting and the subsequent loss of muscle tissue. So it's not damaged, it's fixable.
It's just like everything else, it's a process. Everything is a process. And I really love the knowledge and the approach that you're taking in order to get that healthy lifestyle and still to reach the goals. That for me is, you don't actually get a lot of people that care about that part. You get a lot of coaches that do care about the results and the image and everything, the before and after, because that's a lot that people post. And that those are the ones that gets the comments and the engagement, but that you are really focused on making sure that the client knows what it is, that they are knowledgeable. I think that to use your words, that is very powerful. You can't you
can't be swayed. Yeah. And you're going to stay on like I said before, I mean, the whole point is to stay on a track that's healthy and sustainable. You know, no more MLMs, no more cleanses, no more diet pills. And, I've seen trainers give their clients like very restrictive diets. I've seen like 500 calorie diets.
Mhm.
I've seen clients trainers give their clients diet pills. I've seen them give them ephedrine, which is it speeds up your heart rate, right? So you burn calories. It's like a thermogenic. But ultimately, if that's what a trainer is doing, they're not doing their job. So if you're going to a coach and giving you these things, and they're giving you, really, really low calorie diets, or they're trying to sell you something, they're not doing their job. Their job is to help you become healthier, the best shape for your specific shape, and to do
Yeah.
it in a way sustainable.
I love that you also said that it is for your shape, because yes, every person, male or female, is unique in a certain way. And if cardio might work for one person, it might not work for someone else. More weightlifting or a different type of technique might be completely different, because we are, even though our anatomy and things is science, we put together a slightly different way.
Yeah,
Each everyone. And I love that you acknowledge that, and you know that everything is personalized, and every person needs a customized diet. It's not a cookie cutter when it comes to your bodies. It's not.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And when we talk about, like, some people, cardio will work for some things, and training will work for some things, like weight training and resistance training. But there is a really important difference that I think is a distinction that needs to be made when we're talking about our goals. If your goal is endurance and cardiovascular health, then yes, of course, like, cardio is very, very important. It's important anyways for your cardiovascular health. But if we're talking about overall health and health into old age, and our bone health and our metabolic health, weight training, resistance training, having lean muscle tissue is like the utmost important thing. As you get older, from 35 onwards, we start to lose a significant amount of lean muscle tissue per year if you're not actually resistance training. And with that reduced amount of lean muscle tissue comes certain metabolic diseases, instability, especially as you get older. When the difference between a 65-year-old that falls and breaks a hip and is inactive, and the difference between a 65-year-old that falls and is active, there's studies that show the immense difference between the two scenarios. And so weight training is incredibly important, especially as we age.
Yeah, I want to touch on the other challenge that you spoke about, the basically body dysmorphia.
Yes.
The image of when we look at a mirror, and it's not just women, it's males as well.
True. Yeah.
It is. How do you deal with that part with your clients? Because kind of, even though everything is about right now, it is love your body, love your body. There's still an image that is put out there on social media and on entertainment everywhere of what a body should be looking like. How do you deal with that with your clients?
It's a very delicate thing to talk about with them, and in general, because everybody's reasons are different. But usually when we talk about, like, eating disorders, whether it's bulimia by forms of cleanses, which is a type of bulimia, or the classic bulimia that we think of, which is binging and purging, or anorexia, or over exercise, these things generally, they don't just come from a body dysmorphia reasoning. They also come from a need to control, because in a lot of people's situations, that is the only form of control that they have, is controlling their body and their food. So sometimes it's that needs to be addressed. But I think from a body dysmorphia perspective, if you can show somebody what their body is capable of, they start to see it in a different way. So if you can help somebody recognize their strength and their capabilities, they start to pick apart what their body looks like less, because their confidence is coming from a different place. As people who are constantly bombarded with media, it is really hard to not play that comparison game. And it's the journey is different for every client that's suffering with that. But I really find the best way to start that journey is to change the narrative from what your body looks like to what it's capable of. Because the rest comes, right? When you start to focus on strength and power, you will see your body changing regardless, but it's coming from a place of love instead of a place of tearing your body down.
I find it very interesting, specifically in our community here where we are so international. Different cultures have also different body types.
Yes.
And we can't do this comparison between our different body types when we are put together differently.
Yeah, well, I mean, have you seen those? I love seeing these things where they show a woman at 150 pounds and there's like 6 women all lined up and they're all 150 pounds. Their bodies look completely different. So it's a good reminder not to go by the scale, but just that we are all built so differently. And like I said, just being in the best shape for your shape, which at the same weight might be completely different than mine.
That is very true. And that size isn't what the scale says, and what the size is that you are at that stage is not as important as what you feel like and what your body is actually
and overall sense of health. So for me, on a BMI scale, which is a body mass index, it's your weight relative to your height. I'm obese, which is incredible. Like it's an archaic measurement, but it's just to show that the scale actually is a really inappropriate way of measuring progress. And unfortunately, like a lot of my clients, they still want to get on a scale every day, but muscle is more dense than fat. So as you start to put on muscle, you may become smaller, but you'll see the scale go up, which is, it's terrifying if that's where your focus is, right? But yeah, I'm very athletic. I'm fairly lean, but still on that, going by my weight, I'm obese, which is crazy. So I think if someone who is very focused on that part of their journey, I think it's important to make smaller goals that are not scale based, like where you can celebrate the little successes. Like, okay, instead of doing 1 push-up, you did 10. Okay, well, you ran for 5 minutes instead of 2, and you were able to carry your child up the stairs where you couldn't before. They're better and more reasonable places to put your focus than your weight.
I 100% agree. I just remember also when I was competing, and your scenario of someone not actually being able to look at themselves in the mirror when just picking up weights or doing something. I was that too. I hated looking at myself in the mirror when picking up anything, and my coach at the time kind of also forced me to do that and to start seeing it differently. But I think that the part that is mostly missing for all of us is that changing of the narrative. So even if you do the action, but you don't change the narrative inside yourself, it won't change. That it won't have a lasting effect. So I really appreciate the way that you approach your clients and the added knowledge that you put in, and that there is the long lasting effect that you are aiming for each of your clients.
Thank you. A question for you about body dysmorphia, if you don't mind. Did you feel that before you started to compete, or was it the competition environment that created that in you?
Both, in different ways.
Okay, it's really interesting. I've had people ask me why I don't compete, and one, I'm very disciplined, but not in the way where I want to measure my food, and I'm also non-competitive, so that wouldn't be right for me. But as a mother, and like I said before, like, the way that we talk about our bodies and talk about food, I've heard so many parents say in front of their kids, like, oh, I don't eat carbs. And then the kid picks that up, that's bad, right? I don't ever want my daughter to see me weighing my food or even weighing myself, really, other than out of a curiosity standpoint, because it's, she looks to me for those things. And yeah, competition can be brutal.
It is. But it's also the environment that I know, let me rephrase. It's not the environment that we put ourselves in. It is the narrative of ourselves within the environment that we need to be able to take control of.
Yeah.
And appreciate any body type for what it is, including your own.
So I have another question for you that I think that people listening, I already know the answer, but I think people listening would really like to hear. What were the biggest struggles for you when you were competitive and you got down to a certain leanness? As a female, there's certain things that I think a lot of people aren't aware of when they see someone who had done a cut for a magazine cover, for instance, or someone on stage. What did you find was like the changes that you went through? I'm thinking specifically like biomarkers, like lack of sleep and things like that.
So those things weren't as hectic for me back then. My husband is extremely supportive in that aspect. He basically prepped my food. He did all of that. He did everything. He was amazing at that stage. But the recovery part afterwards, that's where I got the biggest mindset hurdles. Is the coach at the time never explained to me what reverse dieting was. So I went from nothing to everything, and my body kind of blew up. Yes, it would. It would. And I didn't have the toolkit. Probably still don't. So I should probably be a client of yours.
I would love to have you.
on how to deal with that. This is not my career. This isn't what I do. I am a normal woman that wants to be able to fit in a certain pair of jeans or walk past the mirror and think, hey, sexy, and walk on.
Yeah.
And I believe that is, or I'm really hoping that is kind of something that all women can strive to be, to love themselves in that way and find the beauty in themselves, even if they are in sweatpants. And even if it is in an environment where it seems like the odds are against you.
Yeah. You know what, that is another important thing I would love to touch on, if that's okay, is
sure.
There is a movement out there of self-love, which is really good, but loving your body as it is, absolutely, like that's really, really important, but loving it into complacency is a fine line, right? And I think that it is so important to love yourself and love your body no matter what shape you're in, no matter what your circumstances are. And that's a learning and it's hard. But part of that isn't talked about is the complacency part of it. I think that it's important to love your body enough to take care of it, to understand that this is that body that has to take you into old age. This is the body that, has to be able to heal from illness. And it's important to love it, but also to not be complacent. So that's something that isn't touched on very much. And I think that it's an important distinction.
I think you just hit the nail on the head there, yes. Complacency becomes comfort, and anything out of your comfort zone is scary. So
yes, yeah.
But any change and anything is a process. And the minute you stick to it and you have amazing coaches like yourself to guide you through that way, that knows it, that's been there, that understands what it takes. Me personally, I am 100% behind investing in coaches, investing in people that know what it is that you want to achieve. You don't have to learn all the lessons yourself. Invest in a coach that can guide you the way through it. And that is if it is fitness and health and fitness, or if it is in business, or if it is in whichever it is. But investing in coaches to get to you to where you want to be is usually the cheapest, the fastest, and the most supportive way if you find the right coach.
Yes, I completely agree. And even myself as a trainer, there's been times that I've thought like, okay, I'm in this hurdle and I need somebody to guide me through that. And, even professionals need coaches, business owners need business coaches, where there's always someone who knows a little bit more than us that we can draw on.
Definitely. So, Kristen, how can people get hold of you?
Through my Instagram, which is lift.with.kristen. They can also call me. I can give you my cell phone number for the details, or I can just rattle it off here.
You can just rattle it on.
Okay, it's 250-600-3091. I always have my phone, and I'm always happy to answer questions and return texts. My Instagram also has a lot of free information. I really believe in making health accessible. So prior to COVID, there was a lot of mainly just like nutritional information and workout information and things like that. And then when COVID happened, I started putting up free workout videos 3 times a week so that people could be, there's a cat at the window, sorry, 3 times a week for people just to be able to stay active at home with like minimal equipment. My Instagram unfortunately was compromised. I've had to start fresh. There's not a lot of that stuff up there right now, but there is always free and helpful content coming up, and I'm always answering DMs for people who aren't my clients. I'm happy to answer questions.
And email?
liftwithkristen@gmail.com. It's all one word.
Awesome. And then where do you train out of?
Well, I'm not brick and mortar, which is like has some challenges and some real benefits, but I tend to go where my clients need me to go. So some of them, I have clients in Alberta and in Vancouver, and they're virtual. So I see them over Zoom or FaceTime. I have some clients at the Aquatic Centre. I have some clients that I see at Cornerstones Wellness Centre. Usually the ones at Cornerstones are clients who are shared clients with the physios there. So they have a team behind them, which is really important. And I see clients at their homes, usually new moms who have a hard time getting out. I will go to them to make that a little bit more accessible for them.
Wow, that is just amazing. I'm glad that we have talent like this in our town, and that it is accessible for us here. That you don't have to go to Vancouver or a big city to get talent like yours here. I think it's awesome. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. I'm really glad you've had me on here. It's great.
But before we end, what is the one thing what advice can you give for other business owners in our community?
I think it's really important to recognize what you have to offer. There's a lot of trainers in town now. There wasn't always, there are now, and we all have our strengths and our niche. And I think it's really important to know yourself enough to know what you have to offer and where those strengths are. I also think in any industry, it's important to be authentic, to always be yourself instead of looking at someone else's business model and trying to copy it, because you have something that is incredibly unique to offer as a business owner, as a person. And if you're inauthentic, no one's going to know what you really have to offer, and you maybe won't attract the right clientele.
I 100% agree with you. Like you said, there might be a whole bunch of trainers in town, but there is no one with your history. There's no one with your personality. There's no one with your mannerisms. There's no one that can serve the clientele that the way that you can. There's only one you. And that's how you carve out your niche, is to be you, to make use of your history, your experiences, because no one else can compete with that. Absolutely no one. And that's your unique factor. How do you make you to serve your clients? Because that clientele will not be served the way that you do it anywhere else in the world.
I agree. And I just think it's really important to find out who you are and to use that as a selling point. In my industry, a lot of the clients that come to me, they're coming to me with like very intimate issues, and they often come quite vulnerable. And I think if they're making themselves vulnerable to somebody who isn't really being authentic, they can sense that. And it makes a difference in their comfort level and their safety level. You know, people who come to trainers generally, they're not there because they just want to have a good time. You know, they're there because they hit a point in their life where they want to see some change. And that's usually a bit of a point of vulnerability.
And then the process comes.
Just
trust the process. Always trust the process.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Kristen. It was lovely and such an honor to have you on Let's Get Down to Business.
Thank you so much for having me.
So my name is Daphne Thompson, and I'll see you next time on Let's Get Down to Business.
Thank you for listening to the Let's Get Down to Business with the Prince Rupert and District Chamber of Commerce. If you would like to be featured as a guest on a future episode, please email us at rupertchamber@gmail.com or direct message us on Facebook or Instagram at Prince Rupert Chamber.